Today I'm going to be showing you how to create this text system, or I guess you could use it as a chat system. So as you can see, you can type in here. You can type in here something like Blender. It shows up, and as you can see, we kind of have that blinking cursor. One thing you can't do with this is you can't use the arrow keys to go between it and like edit inside of it, just because of I wasn't sure how to do that. So for now, this is all we have, but it works pretty well. So you can type something, and when we click enter, what it's going to do is it's put it to a variable. So it's put it into the global dictionary. So I can go into another scene and I can reference that, even though, you know, the other object that had the information is not existing anymore. So you can use that for lots of stuff. You can do lots of stuff in your game. I mean, if you had it all connected up to networking, you could also use it as a messaging system. So yeah, let's go ahead and get into it and learn how to do it. Alright, so we are here in a new scene. So we're going to go ahead and delete the default cube and delete the lamp. So now that we've done that, we're going to go ahead and go Alt R and Alt G, and that's going to clear the rotation and the location of the camera. So it's going to be at the center and it's going to be pointing straight down. So let's go ahead and move this up by going G, Z, and then we can move this up holding Control if you want to incrementally move it. I'm going to go into the camera view, and this looks good. So first of all, what we need to do is add a text object, because this is an object that's going to display our chat system or our command system, or whatever you want to call it. So I'm going to go Shift A, add a text object. So now that we've done that, we can go ahead and scale this down and kind of just move it over into the corner or wherever you want it to be. So I'm going to put it here. Also going to go ahead and change this from Blender Render to Blender Game. And we're going to come down here and we're going to go into the Game Logic panel. And in this tutorial, we're going to be using the logic nodes as well as the normal logic bricks, both of them together, so we can create this system. So if you don't have that add-on, you don't know how to use it, I'll have a link in the description to a tutorial you can watch on how to install that and get started. This version is a little bit different to that because it's been updated a little bit, but it's pretty close, so you should be able to follow along. Anyway, what we need to go ahead and do is change this from here, from the text editor to the node logic editor. So that the node editor, yeah. And now we're going to go over to the node logic editor, which is this little game icon. So we click on that, and you can see that we have this blank thing right here, which is what we want. Another thing we want to go ahead and do is hovering over this, hit T, and we're going to open up this panel. We're going to come down here to the second row down here, and this is what you're going to want to have. Don't worry about any of these. This can all be accessed with the Shift A menu. So this is the menu we want, because this is really what you're going to need to be worrying about. So just leave that there. So now that that's done, we want to go ahead and save the file, because this add-on here cannot work without saving the file, because it saves information next to the file. So we're going to go ahead and do that with Control S, and we're going to go ahead and find a file location. Alright, so once you've found where you want to save it, go ahead and give the Blender name and then just click Save File. So now that we've done that, this should all be set up. So what we're going to go ahead and do is create a new node tree for the logic node. So click that, and this should all be set up. So what we're going to go ahead and do, first of all, is we want to be able to detect what the input is. So if I type in Blender, I want to be able to record all those key presses so I know what the player has typed in. So the way we can do this is I'm going to use just the normal logic bricks for this one, because the reason we do this is we can't do it with the logic nodes add-on right now. It does not have kind of that functionality, so it's not a big problem. You're going to add a keyboard sensor. Once you've added that in, click this all keys, and that should be all good. So down here we have these two functions here, and what this allows you to do is log the keys, so it records all the keys. So the way we set this up is we're going to add two variables. So first of all, we're going to add a variable down here with the normal add game property, and this is going to be a boolean, and this is going to be toggle. All right, and this is going to be set to true. So down here you see log toggle. So what this means is you just have to have this, and if this is true, then it is going to record all the key presses. If it's not true, it's not going to record the key presses. So Yeah, that's something you can have. It's quite useful if you need to use it. Today we're not really going to need to use it, but it is quite useful. So again, we want to be able to record the key presses to another variable, and that variable we're going to record it to is the actual text object. So here you'll see add text game property. This property, basically when we assign something to this property, it's going to be added to this text. So this text is going to display it. So the easiest way to show that is to just use it. So if you come down here to the target and select text, which we created here, and we go press P, hovering over the viewport, and we type something in, so Blender maybe. As you can see, it's recording it. So that's all great and fine, but what we need to do is, instead of recording it straight to that, we're going to need to do something a little bit different, because we want to go ahead and add one of these in. Now, I'm not sure what this is called, but it's under your spacebar. Right, it's the backslash. If you instead hold shift and click that, it's going to get you this symbol. So if we have this here, just because this is what we're going to use for, the cursor to tell that where you can type. If we were to just kind of place this on top, and then we were to type at the wrong time, then this would be here, and then this would be here, and then we'll get them all through it, and it would mess up. So what we're going to go ahead and do is we're going to go ahead and add a temporary property. So I'm going to add a game property, and this is going to be called temp. And instead of saving this straight to the text object, the target's going to be set to temp. So if we go ahead and click this print debug properties for this info, for this property, and then we come up here and we go show debug properties, you see in the corner we have our property there, temp, and it's equal to nothing right now. But if we type, as you can see, it's got the information there. So now that it's all set up, what we want to go ahead and do is set up some node logic for this. So first of all, we are going to go ahead and add a node. So the first node we want to go ahead and add is a get game property. So we're going to go Shift A, and you can just go ahead and search get, and it should show up. Get game object property, we're going to add that. You can also find it in one of these, which I am assuming it's here. It's in the uncategorized ones here, right at the top. It is get game object property. All right. So we're going to go ahead and drag that a little bit so we can see all these properties. So what all these different settings do? First of all, we need to define what property we're trying to get. So we're trying to get temp. So we're going to go ahead and type this in here. So temp. So down here you see we have temp. So it's going to be referencing that property. And we need to know what object it's trying to get that property from. And we're going to try and get it from this text object, which this setup is going to be applied to. So what we can go ahead and do is we can go Shift A, come down to Scene Graph, and we're going to go ahead and add a owner game object. So what this is basically going to do is it's going to say whatever object this node logic setup is applied to, that's the object we're going to use. So if we go ahead and apply this, making sure we have the selected object here, if we go apply to selected object, now basically this node here is going to go ahead and get whatever's in this temp property. All right. So what we need to do is we need to set the temp property to we need to set the text property to what the temp property is, and then we need to add some extra stuff on so we can have that little marker thing. So what we're going to go ahead and do is we're going to go Shift A, and we're going to go ahead and add a set game object property here. So we're going to add that in, and we need to get in a game object. So it's going to be this owner game object. We're going to go ahead and connect that up. And then we're going to go ahead and connect this up to the value. So the value is what we're going to set it to. So we're getting this temp, and that's what we're setting it to. And the one we want to set it to is text. All right. So that is the one right here. Since you can't change it, it's text with a capital T. And that should be all good. So to make sure this works, we're going to go Shift A and add a always. So go ahead and search for that, always. We're going to go ahead and set this to repeat, so it's always running. So So if we didn't do that, it would run once at the first go and then it wouldn't do anything. So we want to make sure that's on repeat. And if we go ahead and press play and type, as you can see, it's typing into the temp property and then it's typing into this. So let's go ahead and grab this, move this out, and grab this. What we want to go ahead and do is we want to go ahead and add this symbol right here. This one right here. Maybe it's a better place to type it. This symbol. So we'll go ahead and add that on to the end of our temp before we apply it to this variable which shows it. So the way we can do that is we can go Shift A, and go onto the math and come down to this one here, right here, top one, and we're going to add this in. So you might think with this that all you can do is maybe add numbers, but actually you can add any kind of variable. And the type we want to add is we want to add, as you can see here, add A to B, that's the type we want. And we're just going to add this symbol here. So let's go ahead and add that. So that's just below the spacebar key, and then you hold Shift, and you'll get that instead of a backslash. So now that we've got that, we're going to go ahead and connect this up, and you can see now this is going to be added to this variable here, which is going to be whatever we type. So now if you press play and type, as you can see, this is always on the end of it. And it looks quite nice. Now, let's say you want it to flash. Now, this is an optional step, and it is a bit more complicated than it needs to be. But if you do want that, you're going to have to do something just a little bit different. What we're going to go ahead and do is we're going to go Shift A, and we're going to go ahead and search for a value switch right here. So if we go ahead and add that in, as you can see here with this node, if it's equal to true, then it's going to do whatever's plugged into here. It's going to send that as the output. If it's equal to false, then it's going to do whatever the output of B is. So if that doesn't make sense, you'll see kind of how it works in a second. So I'm going to go ahead and plug this into B and plug this into A. All right. So now what we want to go ahead and do is get an input here so that it will flip between true and false every few seconds. Now, I was trying to figure out a way to do it with the node logic, and it just got too complicated. So the way I found the best way I found to make it work is just go ahead and duplicate this, move it up, connect this up to the object, and instead of this, we're going to add a new property, and this is going to be show, or anything else you want to call it. I'm just going to call it that. And then we're going to go ahead and add a delay and change it to repeat. And it's going to wait 10 logic ticks. And then we're going to go ahead and add a property. And we're going to go ahead and connect this up. And we're going to go ahead and select that show. And we're going to change this from assign to toggle. So basically every 10 logic ticks is going to switch between true and false. And if we go ahead and connect this up to here, as you can see, it's not the correct one, but this does output a true or false, so it will work. So now if we press play, as you can see, it's not working. So let's see. All right. So the problem is that it needs to be set to a Boolean. So now that we've set it to a Boolean, oh, and the other problem is, I just saw this, is this needs to be set to show with a capital S. And now if we do it, as you can see, it's blinking quite fast. Depends on how fast you want it. Let's change it to 20. Alright, so that's pretty much done. So let's say we want to run a command. So how do we detect if the player types in something that should be run as a command? Well, what we can go ahead and do is go Shift A, and we're going to look for logic. And here we go. So we want this logic operations, and we're going to add that. And what we're going to do here is if A is equal to B here, as you can see, that's what we want. So if the input from temp right here is equal to a string, then we're going to output something. So let's say if it's equal to /end. We want to do something. So let's go Shift A and let's go ahead and add an end game here. So I'm going to go ahead and plug that in. And what you should see is if we go /end, as you can see, it instantly ends. But the problem with this is it ends as soon as we click the last key. We want it to do this when we click enter. So the easy way to fix that is we can go Shift A and then go ahead and go and we're going to add this in. So if this is equal to true and the key pressed is equal to enter, we are going to go ahead and run this code. So let's go ahead and refresh imported nodes. And if we go /end, nothing happens. But if we click enter, as you can see, it does work, which is what we want. Now, if you wanted more of these, all you need to go ahead and do is duplicate this down. Duplicate this down. Go ahead and connect this into here. And let's say /game or something. Then we can go /game. Nothing's going to happen because we need to refresh the imported nodes. /game. And as you can see, it works the same way. But all we need for now is one of those. So one other thing we want to do is we want to go ahead and save this, whatever we typed here, to a global variable so that we can use this for something else. So, and in the case of making this, I thought it would be a good way to type in the player's name, like ask them to type in a name, and then it will put it up into the global dictionary, and later on you can reference that. So in your game, if you had some text, you could have some text that would, instead of putting just some normal text, it would put the player's name that they had entered. So the way we do this is pretty simple. So what we're going to go ahead and do is go Shift A, game, and I believe it's here. What am I looking for? Let me just go ahead and look at my other scene, which I'm using for a reference. So it's let's go Shift A, set, and down here, global, set global value. So we're going to go ahead and add that. And here you'll see we have a few options. So first of all, the ID. So this is kind of like, if you think of it as a folder kind of structure, this is not the best explanation. But the ID is the folder, and then the key is like the individual programs. So what we're going to go ahead and do is for the key, we're going to go ahead and say, let's say player info. So this is where you would be saving all kind of player information or something like that. And then the key is going to be, let's say, name or text or whatever you want it. In this case, I'm thinking of it as like them typing in their name, so that's going to be it. You can have whatever you like. So now that we've done that, what we want to go ahead and do is we're going to go ahead and add another thing. So let's see, /set. And then we're going to go ahead and find what we're looking for. So, sorry, getting a little bit mixed up here. We're going to go Shift A, key, pressed, and we're going to go ahead and connect that up to this one right here. And we're going to say if enter is pressed, then we are going to go ahead and run this. And the value we want to do is going to be this temp up here. So I'm just going to go ahead and delete this. You could go ahead and drag this out to here, but just to keep everything cleaner, I am going to go ahead and just use its own one. It's not quite as optimized, but it should be fine. Right. So we're going to get the value of temp. We're going to connect this into value. So that's what it's going to save. So let's go ahead and do that. So if we go force code update, and then we go ahead and type, as you can see, you don't really see much happening, but this should be working. So the way we're going to test if it's working is we're going to go to another scene, and we're going to go ahead and basically call what we have saved here in that other scene to see that it's working. So what we're going to have to go ahead and do for now is this node logic add-on doesn't have a node which you can just automatically go to another scene. It does have a add scene, which you can go ahead and use to add a background scene or an overlay scene, but it doesn't actually have one that you can just switch scene, which is something that needs to be added. I'll see if the developer could add it, because that'd be pretty awesome. But the workaround for now, if you don't already have it, you might have it. If you're in the future, there might be a node to do that, so just go ahead and look for that. But for now, a workaround is we're going to go Shift A, and we're going to go ahead and say set game object property, and we're going to set the property scene. We're going to set this to a boolean, and we're going to set this value to so scene is going to be set to true. So now we've done that, we're going to go ahead and connect this up, the game object to the owner game object. So now this is all connected up. What you should see is nothing's going to happen, although if we go ahead and click this and we click enter, as you can see it does set it to true. But let's go ahead and add a property down here, a property sensor, and this is going to be looking for scene, and if scene is equal to true, then we're going to go ahead and add an actuator, and we're going to set the scene to set scene to our new scene, which is going to be another scene here. So I'm going to create a new scene, and this is going to be just scene.001. So we're going to go ahead and select that. Select that. So now if we go ahead and click enter, as you can see, it's gone to another scene. And basically what we want to go ahead and do in this scene to make sure it's working is we're going to go ahead and add a camera. Alt R, Alt G. We're going to go ahead and move this camera up. We're going to go ahead and add a text object. We're going to go ahead and add a text game object property here. That's going to be a string. And this node setup we're going to call type. And we're going to go ahead and click this plus to make a new one. And this one's going to be called get name or something, whatever you want to call it. So that's what I'm going to call it. And what we're going to go ahead and do is we're going to ask the Blender, basically through the node logic thing, to get the name value. So what we're going to go ahead and do here is we're going to go ahead and go Shift A, and we're going to go get global value. And here you can see we have the ID and the key. So the ID is player info. And the key is, if I remember, the key is name with a capital N. So all of these do have to be the same capitalization. And then we're going to go ahead and say set. And then we're going to go ahead and set a game object property. And we're going to go Shift A, own. So we're going to get the owner property, the owner module. So game object owner. And we're going to plug this into game object. We're going to plug this value into the value. And we're going to set the value text to this. And then we're going to go ahead and add a always. So as soon as the scene starts up, basically this is going to run once and get the name, and then it's going to set the name to this text. This text is going to be set to the name. So we're going to go ahead and click apply selector to object, and we're going to go ahead and press play. And as you can see, nothing's happening. So we're going to go ahead and change this to a string down here, and we're going to say not working. So basically this is the default value. So if we do not have any property called this or anything, it's going to display this. So if we go here and press play, it's going to display that because there is no global value set by that, because we didn't set it up in the other scene, because we started the game in this scene. So if we go to the other scene, come over here and we type in Blender and we click enter. Now you can see it's working on the other scene. It's got the name from the global value. So that is it. There you go, it's all set up. You can use this for commands. So if you want to switch to the other one as well, you just go back. You can use this for commands. You can use this for all types of stuff, chat systems or whatever. But this is just the basic node logic setup. So there we go. It's all done, all finished. And I hope you like this tutorial. If you want to see more tutorials like this and tutorials on other subjects, I do come out with a new tutorial, so you can subscribe to see those every single week. But other than that, if you want to see more tutorials on the node logic thing, then go ahead and comment down below. But if you want to see tutorials on other stuff, like just the logic bricks, normal logic bricks, or maybe the texture, the material nodes, go ahead and also comment that down below, because I'd love to know if you'd like to see a tutorial on that as well. So have a great week, keep blendering, and have an awesome day.